Hi everyone, it's Phil from Marine Rescue Hawkesbury. Today's another tips and tricks from us. Like our other previous tips about bilge pumps, we'd like to bring you another production focused on our small boating community. So the first picture that's going to pop up on the screen is just showing you a basic construction of a typical 12 volt flooded battery that you'll find on many small vessels. Inside that battery are 6 cells, and you might see even in a maintenance free battery there are 6 caps. They represent the 6 cells inside that battery. Each of those cells contains a number of lead plates, 2 different types of lead plates, and that's inside an electrolyte. That electrolyte is sulfuric acid. When those plates are exposed to the electrolyte, it forms a voltage and a current. When you add each of these cells together, and there's 6 of them in a typical 12 volt battery, you get approximately 12.6, 12.8 volts, give or take, when the battery is full. And that's because each of these cells is about 2.1 volts. So sometimes, even after we charge a battery, we might see that we can't get the voltage over, say, 10.6 volts. What might be happening there? Well, a cell may have actually failed, and then you won't be able to start your motor. Now, some of the batteries, so you'll notice that on the next pop-up we have on your screen is a battery indicator. These are sometimes called magic eyes. The magic eye has a small green bubble or float, and this is inserted in one of the cells of the battery. That is essentially a hydrometer, and a hydrometer will have higher density as the battery is charged, which allows that ball to float more. So as it floats to the top, it shows green. Now, whilst that can show green, your battery may still have failed, and that's because that hydrometer or magic eye is only inserted in one particular cell. So unless it's that particular cell that's failed, then you won't know. So when you think about batteries, there is this concept of a state of charge versus a state of health. And what we're more familiar with is this concept of state of charge. What's come up on your screen now is a common voltmeter that's on a vessel. And that voltmeter might show approximately 13 volts or 12.8 volts. That's around about a full battery. When a battery is fully charged, as I mentioned, it's about 12.8 volts. When it's about half charge, it's actually 12.2 volts. So, for a 12 volt battery, half charge is not actually 6 volts. A half charge or 50% state of charge is about 12.2 volts. So when you're measuring 12.2 volts, it sort of sounds like a full battery, but would you believe it's actually only half charged? And at 11.9 volts, your battery is considered flat, 0% state of charge, or SOC. The state of charge versus state of health. So the state of charge is relating to the voltage of the battery. A fully charged battery is sitting at about 12.8 volts. When the state of charge is at 50%, it's actually only dropped to around about 12.2 volts. Now, the state of charge doesn't necessarily tell you the state of health of your battery and its ability to crank your motor. So a voltmeter alone only will show you that you've got a voltage, but it doesn't tell you, do you have enough current to actually start your motor, especially in cold weather. So, state of health. Coming up on your screen now is a professional battery tester, which will show a number of things, including the voltage or state of charge, also the specification for the battery that's been programmed, which is in this case 660 cold cranking amps, and actually measured in its test 352 cold cranking amps. On the next screen shows you internal resistance as well as the state of charge and well as the state of health. Whilst the state of charge states 100%, it's only showing a state of health of 45%. So because the battery, when it was new, was about 660 cold cranking amps, and now it's only displaying 352, it's like the battery has just shrunk. And it doesn't have as much capacity to crank that motor, especially in very cold weather. Cold cranking amps is how much current can a battery supply for 30 seconds at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about minus 18 degrees Celsius. The battery next to me here, which is an Optima battery, this one has a specification here, CCA 800 cold cranking amps. As this degrades and wears out, we will see the cold cranking amps reduce. And if it gets too low, it's harder to start the motor. And in cold weather, it makes it even harder to start again. So whilst your voltmeters and your state of charge can look perfectly fine, this is a significant reason whilst your motors will not crank or have difficulty cranking when your state of health of the battery has degraded. What ruins a battery? Like, why does this battery start at the one that was on the screen, 660 cold cranking amps? How did it get to 352 cold cranking amps? Even after we charged it, we had great volts, but it still failed to start my engine, especially in cold weather. Well, there is a phenomena, and that is called sulfation. And this is a very misunderstood phenomena that occurs. So lead sulfate crystals, so an image is coming up on your screen now, shows these white crystals that will form over the lead plates. It essentially starts to insulate parts of those lead plates and reduces its capacity. As you allow those batteries to drop voltage, you leave your battery for weeks. As that sulfation grows on the plates, it gradually hardens as well. And this will start in as little as a week. So if you leave these batteries very poorly charged for weeks on end, whilst you still charge them, and they're fully charged to the correct voltage or state of charge, the health of the battery, the state of health, is declining. So you're not getting your money's worth. So you need to keep these batteries charged over 12.5 volts. There's several ways you can do it. Constant maintenance charging. You can also use solar panels that will maintain the state of charge over that 12.5 volts. This will be the simplest way of making these batteries last for a very long time. There are some different battery chemistries which are more susceptible to damage through sulfation, and others which are more resistant. This particular battery is at the higher end of the scale. This is known as a spiral AGM battery by Optima. Some of our rescue boats use Optima batteries. These batteries have a non-spillable electrolyte or the acid because it's absorbed into a glass mat, absorbed glass mat, which is the acronym AGM. These batteries are a little bit less susceptible to things like sulfation, but it's an expensive way to go just to avoid it. The best thing you can do to maintain your batteries throughout the year is to keep them charged, however means that you have. Whether you run the boat more often, whether you take the battery out of the boat and charge it regularly, or you attach a regulated solar panel, which many small vessels do use. Just put a small solar panel out, connect it to your battery, and that'll keep it topped up all the time, and you'll maximize the battery life. So I've just completed our battery maintenance, cleaned our connectors. The next point we're going to have a look at here is the mounting of the battery. So whilst it was swimming around a little bit before, rocking about, we've now got that secure. It's now seated in a tray, and it's got a little strap that's passing over the top of it. The next thing that we can do here, just to enhance this vessel, is to install a battery switch. Now, just remember with your battery switches is to make sure that your bilge pump is bypassed from a battery switch. That way your bilge pump will always work. So that's wired directly to the battery. And don't forget your fuse in case there's a short circuit, and that'll protect your battery. So what we're going to do next is we're going to install a battery switch. This one's keyed. You can get both keyed and unkeyed. If you just want to reduce the risk of tampering, you can get a key. This is a simple single battery version with an off position and an on position. So what this means is this vessel skipper, when he goes, you can just turn it to off. You can lock it if you want, and then isolate all electrical systems from the battery to just prevent that battery from going flat. I'm just going to tack these up now with a pair of pliers. We just don't have a spanner with us just at the moment, but we should obviously be using the appropriate tools here, the spanner. So we've actually, because normally your positive cable from the motor goes directly to the battery, we're putting a switch in line. So that means that the original cable from the motor is going to go to the switch, and then we of course need one of the other terminals to actually go back to the battery. So we've had to get a battery switch as well as a short new cable. Okay, so we're just going to make sure there's no strain on these cables. If they're too loose, just cable tie them up. Done. Actually, there is one other thing. So you get battery terminal protector. That stop those terminals from corroding too quickly. Now we're done. We'll switch it to on. We should be able to get this motor started. Excellent. Well, that's it for today. We hope you enjoyed that segment. As we always say, when you head on out, log on with Marine Rescue, and when you come back in, log off. Thanks everyone.